the spiritual teaching for 2012, according to the Maya creation myth, has to do with transformation and renewal, as I mentioned, that must be facilitated by sacrifice. Sacrifice, there's that word, hearts torn out, blood, Okay, but let's just look at the underlying spiritual teaching of sacrifice, because you find it really in all of the world's great religious, that you can't have a transformation and an awakening and a renewal unless a sacrifice happens first. But what it is, it's the sacrifice of the illusions that keep us stuck to planes of limitation in our consciousness. We all have different things, different illusions that we buy into and feed. And a lot of times the screaming little voice that keeps us stuck to those illusions revolves around our egos. Me, and our selfish desires and needs. Now, I'm not saying that we need to destroy the ego, but a problem that arises, and I think it's a big problem in the world today, is the problem of an entire civilization that is built around that screaming little voice of the ego, that just wants more, and it's greedy, and it's a tyrant, and it's controlling. The thing that needs to be sacrificed is our attachment to the illusions that ego is constantly feeding us, that keep us stuck to limitation. Because then when we can get free of the limitations, whatever they are, we all have to do the work to identify what they are in our own process. For one person it might be one thing, for another person it's another thing. But whatever it is that you can identify in your own process of spiritual work, however you do that, is to disentangle from the net of illusions that is woven by the ego. So the Maya insight in terms of cycle endings, in terms of what the challenge and the promise of 2012 is, it has to do with free will, really. Again, it's not about some thing that's going to happen to us. We have a special opportunity, I think, at this particular juncture, because it is the end of a cycle, according to the Maya. Maybe there is something involved with the galactic alignment, some kind of energetic sort of opening that's created by these kinds of galactic alignments. Certainly the astrophysicists don't have an answer to this, although they'll reject it, out of hand. I think that's an open question. It needs to be looked at. It's the eternal, infinite, divine self that is the source consciousness from which we all come. So that's represented in the Maya creation myth by the deity named Hunahpu. Hunahpu is the father of the hero twins, and he gets sacrificed, and then he gets reborn. And there's a whole complex of teachings around this sacrifice rebirth thing. And the point is that the rebirth process is like an awakening process. Periods that humanity goes through of forgetting and awakening, that's the cycle. It's like the breathing cycle. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And there are these still points in the breath cycle. If you've ever done pranayama or any kind of meditation, breathing in, still point, breathing out, still point. I think 2012 is one of these still points, and we have a great opportunity to see the underlying truth behind the movement of time. What we find in the Maya world is authentic ceremonies that are still practiced today at period endings in the calendar. The 260-day calendar is still followed. Antonio's people still follow the 260-day calendar. And there are certain days that they go to shrines and they'll make offerings and prayers. And that's like a sacrifice ritual where they're sacrificing and opening up the conduit between the worlds.
Miguel and Antonio sponsored traditional Maya transformational ceremonies in Guatemala as well as the U.S. in cooperation with Project Wukupnoch, which is led by Antonio's elder, Don In these images, Taino Elder Miguel uses resources of a program that is administered by himself and Maya teacher Antonio, the Maya Taino Prophecy Initiative, to buy candles, flowers, incense, and other ceremonial materials necessary for the sacred rituals of Don Filiberto's Wukup Noh project. Following the dictates of the ancient 260-day Maya Tzolk'in calendar, these ceremonies establish a ritual fractal metaphor for the much larger 260-century cycle that encompasses the 5 suns of the Maya long count. In this way, Antonio and Miguel assist Don Filiberto to manifest in ceremonial form the truth described by the 2012 prophecy, which illustrates the transition time occurring at the end of the present 260-century cycle.
Sinónimo de fertilidad. La caña es también la columna en nuestra médula, en nuestros nervios, pasar por nuestra columna vertebral tiene formación de cáncer,
The transformative shamanic power of Maya ritual, as it relates to the prophetic 2012 message, is recognized by researchers such as John Major Jenkins.
To reintegrate the mind into its relationship with these other, often unseen dimensions. That's what the shaman does. And we all have this potential for being in touch with these unseen dimensions of our own beings. Now, when consciousness is seduced and stuck to ego, then there's a great sort of suffering on a spiritual level, because the consciousness has been limited and put in a box, you might say. So when people talk about spiritual awakening and spiritual practice, I think we're all sort of like trying to learn how to get outside of that box, you know, and to not have to suffer under the tyranny of self-serving egoism. And so this is how it plays out in the creation myth. You actually have a beautiful story that involves one Hunahpu, which is consciousness reborn to its full awareness of true divine eternal self. And then you have this other deity in the creation myth named Seven Macaw. Macaw, the bird, that, you know, the macaw bird that squawks, the seven macaw. In the creation myth, Seven Macaw is a bird deity that appears at the end of the cycle, towards the end of the cycle. And he squawks loudly. He's the vain and false ruler that appears at the end of the cycle, squawking loudly, deceiving humanity, controlling them through fear, distracting them with his glittery ornaments, keeping consciousness stuck to the surface appearance of reality. And this is the metaphor that the Maya incite for the cycle ending, for the times that we are currently living in. And I think it's spot on. It's exactly spot on. The Maya prophecy for 2012 is coming true today.
Bueno, mi papá, él leía mucho lo que es los libros del Popol Vuh cuando yo era niño. Pues él me contaba todo lo que pasaba en los tiempos, cómo fue que nació los primeros de nuestros antepasados, tanto sobre el Huaquín, que es un animal muy famoso que se creía del sol, para que la gente que lo creían el reino del universo, pero la verdad que no era así, y que vivía en un árbol grande más que los árboles. Y entonces ahí se mantenía de que él decía que él es el sol, pero la verdad no es el sol. De la verdad que no es el sol, es una arrogancia la que hacía él, ese pájaro. Entonces, por eso yo les hablo de esto, que la arrogancia que tenemos, mucha gente que tiene todavía la arrogancia, y hay que aprovechar este 2012 de quitarlo eso. Nosotros tenemos que lucharlo. ¿Y cómo lo hicieron para terminar ese pájaro? Para derrumbar ese pájaro sobre ese palo, Funapú y Alamqué llevaron sus cerbatanes y así lo tumbaron. A cada uno nosotros somos como el árbol, y en la cabeza lo tenemos todavía el Kukkakish, pero tenemos que tratar la manera de ser como, tenemos que ser ahora como Funapú y Palanqué, que ellos lo trataron la manera de explotar ese pájaro en el árbol, con el cerbatán. Y así tenemos que tratar la manera del 2012, que tenemos que votar ese Okupkaki a la humanidad para quitar los malos ejemplos que tenemos.
According to how the Maya calendar coordinates with our own calendar, the cycle ending in the calendar, it's a 13 Baktun cycle ending. 13 Baktuns is 5,125 years. The Maya conceived of this as like a world age, like a chapter of human unfolding. And you can find in the Maya creation myth that there's a series of cyclic world ages, a series of world ages. And the Maya believed that at the end of each world age in their cyclic time philosophy, humanity goes through a transformation and renewal. Okay, so in their view of time, the cycle ending's always about transformation and renewal. What's interesting about this, and I'll just sort of say this as an aside because I don't really want to dwell on this too much, is that in the Maya material you don't find an idea of apocalyptic, catastrophic end of the world in 2012. Okay, this is something that you see all over the place in the media, in the Hollywood movies, and even History Channel documentaries. Like, there's something about the drama of that the modern journalism wants to focus on, but it's completely incorrect.
Bueno, la verdad, este tiempo o esta época que cuentan que se termina, pero la mera verdad que este tiempo no se va a acabar, no se va a terminar, porque este tiempo es un tiempo que se va a nacer de nuevo, es un nuevo renacimiento de la humanidad y el respeto de la naturaleza. La que se va a acabar es en los tiempos malos y todo lo que ha pasado, el egoísmo de la humanidad que tenemos, que no nos llevamos bien. Entonces esos son los tiempos malos que se va a terminar, pero el mundo entero no se va a terminar.